Hey everybody, it's Dominic from the Primetime Treasure eBay store and YouTube channel. Welcome back to another video. I am on my way to another county about 40 minutes away from where I started to try to purchase the largest collection of Funko Pops that I have ever obtained. Now, the previous record for the largest amount of Funko Pops that I obtained was about 150. And that was at a garage sale recently. I made a video of that one. I'll link that down below if you want to see it. Briefly, if you're not familiar with Funko Pops, they are these relatively small, though some of them are larger, vinyl action figures slash toys that come encased in a cardboard and plastic box. And you would not believe what some people will pay for these toys. Some of them go for thousands of dollars, some of them go for hundreds of dollars, some of them go for less than $10. So there's a big variety, and they really differ in terms of condition and exclusivity and whether or not they're signed. They have all sorts of different values. So the last one I stumbled upon was at a garage sale, whereas the one that I am about to go get or try to get was one that I was able to locate through a Craigslist ad that I run, where I specifically mention and target that I am looking for these Funko Pop collections. Now, I'll tell you that this ad is one that does not get a lot of bites, but I refresh it every 2 days, and when I do get a bite, it's usually something good. So that's how I've obtained most of my Funko Pop collections, is that way. The garage sale thing was unusual. That doesn't typically happen. So this particular collector, though, is on another level compared to the other collectors that I've purchased from before, in that one, the scope of the collection is massive. There's over 250 of these Pops, plus he may be throwing in all sorts of other toys for me to make the deal happen. Of some vintage Star Wars stuff, for example, might be in there, but it's primarily Funko Pops. Now, some of these Funko Pops, about 8 or 9 of them, are actually signed. They're supposed to come with certificates of authenticity, signed by people such as Will Smith, Ben Affleck, that sort of thing, Chevy Chase. So some of these are worth hundreds of dollars. So that's what's going to make this situation a little bit tricky, because normally what I do in terms of a bulk purchase like this is I try to get them for about $2 per Funko Pop. So if you say there's about 250 of them, that's going to be about $500 right there, right off the bat. But he's got a lot of ones that are quite valuable. So, you know, getting these for a decent price is going to be a challenge. I talked to this person over the phone to make an initial, just a conversational contact on Sunday night, and it was a great conversation. The first 20 minutes, we didn't even talk about the Funko Pops. We just talked about collecting, and we're about the same age, and just things we have in common, just kind of things we could relate to. And that's important because you're trying to establish that relationship with someone. If you could establish that, that helps make a better deal. It increases the likelihood that you'll make a good deal if you have that connection, you share some things in common. So we talked actually in total for about an hour, and then we set up this day where I'm going to come out and look at the collection and possibly purchase it if we can make a deal. We'll see. He's motivated to get rid of it because he just has too many other responsibilities going on in terms of his job. He was gonna piece them out, but he just doesn't have the time. So time, in many ways, are people's biggest enemies, and it could be to your benefit if you have the patience to be able to piece these things out like I do. So that's the goal here. This person has worked in pharmaceuticals, and so this person knows how to schmooze, and he knows how to socialize, and it could be a challenging negotiation. I'm not sure if a deal is going to even happen. So we will see. If so, the other challenge is whether or not I'm able to fit everything in this vehicle, because I would like to try to not make 2 trips. So you got to factor that in too. You want to save the gas money, you want to save the time. Time is money. So I should be there in about 20 minutes. We'll see what happens. I'm obviously not going to be able to turn the camera on really during the negotiation, but we'll see what happens when I get out of there. I'll let you know. All right, so I'm about 5 minutes away from the guy's house, and I'm getting hungry, and I figured this would be a good time to try that McDonald's cheeseburger that the person had on eBay. It was a farmer. He bought one and held on to it for 6 years, and then just decided to sell it. So I figured this would be a good time to try it. See how it is. It's not bad. I mean, these things hold up. They really don't expire. It's amazing. No, I'm obviously just kidding. This really is not a McDonald's cheeseburger that's 6 years old. The reason I'm filming this is because if I'm at this sale and I am distracted by hunger, I'm not going to make a good deal. I need to not be hungry, not be thirsty. Got my water with me. I need to be focused, 100% mentally focused. That is something that happens sometimes. You're going out to make a deal, you're hungry, you're thirsty. Make sure that you got yourself taken care of. You went to the restroom, whatever. You got to be completely focused and in the zone. So I'm going to just wolf down this McDonald's cheeseburger. Fortunately, there's one like 5 minutes away from the guy's house. Then go over there and make a deal. All right, well, I'm here. I just arrived, and literally as I park, I make a $50 sale on eBay for a military helmet that I have. So maybe that's a good sign. I don't know, but we will soon find out. Well, I packed up the $50 helmet, but I did not buy the Funko Pop collection. And I questioned to a degree whether or not I should make this video, and you could let me know whether or not this is helpful or not in the comment section or by using the like buttons. But I thought it would be helpful for you to know the reason why I sometimes don't make deals. Because it's all well and good for me to come on here and show you when I purchase these massive collections and stuff like that. But, again, I've said this before in one prior video, is that could lead to a false impression that every time I go out and get in these situations where, I could potentially make deals, that I'm always finding a way to make the deals. And it just does not always work out that way. So let me give you the basics in terms of what happened, also give you some kind of insights into the way I kind of reasoned through this. So I showed up to the house, and prior to going there, one of the things we talked about is that if we can make a deal, how would we go about the payment arrangement? And there's several basic ways you can do it. One would be cash. The other way would be a business check from my business checking account. And a third way would be through PayPal. And there's pros and cons of each approach, but what the person wound up telling me is that he wanted to do cash because he didn't want his girlfriend or fiance to know how much money he was going to be doing this deal for. So, that's fine. That's his personal preference, and I was okay to do the cash. However, I wasn't going to bring the type of cash that was going to be required to make that deal on hand, because you never know if someone is, going to be up to something where, you might be in an unsafe situation, although I vetted it as much as I possibly could and everything seemed like it would be okay. But you just never know, so you don't want to bring that level of cash with you. You go to an ATM afterwards and kind of bring it back if that's what you decide to do. But I show up, and lo and behold, his fiance is actually there at the house and starts playing a role in the negotiations. Not directly, but kind of behind the scenes. He would have to go out and talk with her, and she would have to give approval or not. And that's a bad situation to be in as a reseller, because now you're negotiating with two people, and one of which you're not really even dealing with directly. And so that could definitely make things tricky. That's not a reason in and of itself to just completely say, forget it, I'm not gonna deal with you. But it is one thing to note that it is a more challenging situation, and it's a switch up on what was previously discussed in terms of payment arrangements and why payment arrangements would be preferred to be in a certain way. So that aside, I walk into the room, and there's the picture that I show in the beginning of the video in terms of the main title screen that I put up, which shows all of these Funko Pops, and there's more than I could fit into that picture, but that's the bulk of it. It turns out to be 229 of the regular Funko Pops. Then there's about 14 that were loose, and then there was like another 11 or so that were the Dorbs brand, which is nowhere near as valuable as the regular Funko Pop. So you total amount would estimate there's about, you know, between 250 260. For my purposes, I just put 250 down because the Dorbs aren't worth as much as the Funko Pops. Now, as he said to me, how the heck are you going to figure out a price for all of this stuff? Well, separate from those 250 to 260, there were 7 signed ones, and that is where the real money potentially is. Okay, so when we say signed ones, we're talking about ones like Chevy Chase signed Griswold Funko Pop. We're talking about Ben Affleck signed Batman. We're talking about Will Smith signed Deadshot. We're talking about Jennifer Tilly signed one as well. I can't remember which figure that exactly was. We're talking about Mark Wahlberg signing Ted 2. And so that's 6 of them, and there was another one in there I can't remember off the top of my head. But and then separate from that, there was a custom-made Cheech and Chong Funko Pop that's very difficult to find. So that's where the bulk of the money is. And separate from that, I tried to just get him down on how much he would be willing to sell all the Funkos separate from the signed ones. And he had valued his collection at worth $2,400 based on the Funko Pop price guide. If you're not familiar with that, you can enter your collection of Funko Pops online into a list, and then you could send it to somebody else so that they could take a look at it, and it will give you the price guide value for all of these Pops. And that's all well and good, but what I always tell people when I'm trying to make deals is that I don't pay attention to what the price guide value is. There's 2 different things in terms of assessing value. There's price guide value, or what you call book value, and then there's market value. Now, a lot of times people want to try to sell you stuff based on what the price guide says. The price guide often has little to no relationship to what the current marketplace is actually doing. And that goes in both directions. So let me give you an example from comic books, okay? I've had instances where you could look up a comic book in a price guide, and the price guide says that it's worth $4. But for whatever reason, based on current market trends, that comic book is actually selling for about $50 to $60 on eBay, trending. So the price guide would be completely wrong. However, there's other times, and this is what's more likely to be the case, that the price guide says a comic book, for example, let's say an old Bugs Bunny comic book is worth about $60 or $120. And if you go to try to sell that Bugs Bunny comic book online from the 1960s, that book is only worth about $10 to $12 in the current marketplace, because most people really aren't looking for Bugs Bunny right now. So that's really how you've got to think about it, is as a reseller, you cannot focus on what the price guide is telling you. That's just a general rough indication. You have got to focus and get the person who you're trying to purchase from to understand why you need to focus on the current marketplace value based on what the completed solds are on eBay, or if you're searching through Poshmark, if you're doing clothing or some other site, and also what people are currently trying to sell it for, because that's the reality of what you have to deal with. You're not going to be dealing with the price guide when you're trying to sell it online. So he said $2,400, and he said he'd want to take about half of that for it. So he's valuing it and at $2,400 and trying to get about $1,200 to $1,200. He said he'd take a little bit less than half, so that would put it at $1,000. That is double of what I would be willing to pay. And what I tried to explain to him was that if I had a physical retail store, I could pay him a bit more, because I could take those Funko Pops and I could put them on a shelf and someone could come in and could purchase them from me. I can't do that as a reseller who's shipping online, because I have to invest in the boxes. So for every 50 Funko Pops, it's going to cost me about $30 to get the boxes for it. I use the 10 by 8 by 6 boxes through eBay. Now, sometimes I use promotional credit to get them, but still, there's going to be times where I'm going to run out of that promo credit and I need to actually reach into my own funds to purchase that. Then I have to factor in how much it's going to cost to use bubble wrap, how much it's going to cost to use air cushions, and those sorts of things, because those are also important to protect it so that I don't get return requests. So that's another factor in terms of cost. And then I also have to factor in shipping costs. So shipping costs, it's about $4 to ship one of the regular size Funkos, and I do free shipping. So, ultimately it's a combination of me and the customer is paying for the shipping, but it just all gets worked into the price. So, that's about over $1,000 in shipping right there for 229 Funkos. So the way I figure it, for your average collection of Funko Pop toys, if you're wondering how to kind of price these things out, if you're buying them in bulk, you got to be at around $2 per pop. So that would be at about a $500 offer. So what I told him was that I would be willing to do $500 for all of those Funkos that he had on there. And he looked kind of surprised at that, and there was really no wiggle room at that point from him in terms of where he would go with it. So then I said, all right, well, I understand you want to get as much for it as you can. You don't want to give it away. And that's another aside. If you look at that picture that I put on the front title screen for this video, you're going to see how meticulous this person kept his collection. And people like that who collect like that, it is an enormous challenge trying to purchase that type of collection, because it's not a hand-me-down. It's not something that he doesn't have any interest in anymore. They're not all in boxes like the last collection that I put. It's not like they're all just taking up space and he just wants to get rid of them. He's just looking for some cash. That's it. And he's very proud of his collection, and he should be. And he doesn't want to just get rid of it. So he's kind of motivated to sell it, but not as motivated as I would like him to be to give me the best type of deal that I could get. So I want to get it for as low as possible. He wants to get it for as high as possible. So I explained to him that that's where we're both at psychologically. And so one thing to possibly try to figure out how to do is meeting in the middle somehow. Meeting in the middle would be $750, but I'm not going to just jump up another $250. We have to look at what else is there as an option for the negotiation. And so that turns to the 6 signed Funko Pops. And what I had to do at that point is just take a little time, go on my phone. I was very open and honest with him what I was doing, that I was looking up what the values of these things were. And it turns out, in an ideal situation, and when I say ideal situation, I mean if they all had certificates of authenticity, the total value of those 7 signed Funko Pops plus the Cheech and Chong Funko Pop would be about $600, maybe a little more. So what do you do there? What I suggest you do in that situation, when you come up with that type of value, let's say it's 600, you take that number and you divide it by 3. So you take a third. That third is what you are going to offer that person, because you want to cover yourself with that other 2/3, factoring in the possibility that you might have a return. There might be something that winds up wrong with the item. So, and you want to leave room for profit. So, plus there's always a little bit of a risk going into this, sometimes a bigger risk than you would be comfortable with, in terms of you ultimately don't know what these things are going to sell for until you put them up yourself. So it might look like it's selling great, but then, for whatever reason, you put it up and you're struggling, you're having a difficulty with it. So you want to factor all these in. That's why you go in at a third. So a third, that would be another $200. So I told them, tell you what, I would do $700 for all the Funko Pops, including the signed ones. Now, this also takes into account that there are some issues, by the way, with these signed ones. What I mean by that is 2 of them came with certificates of authenticity. Now, if you're not familiar with that, it's real important when you're buying signed merchandise that you have them authenticated. That means that the certificate should come from a professional certifying institution, and it depends on what type of collection you're into in terms of which are the most popular ones. For a lot of signed pop culture and sports memorabilia, there's companies like JSA, PSA, Steiner is another one. There's one called Schwartz. There's a bunch of ones out there, so you have to kind of be familiar with them. So we had two that were that had that type of certificate on, so those were good. But the problem is, those were ones that were of lower value, like less than $50. The ones that, or the one that was the highest value, was the Chevy Chase signed Clark Griswold one. Now, that one could fetch between $200 $225. However, the ones that have sold and the ones that I would be competing with have a certificate of authenticity, so a piece of paper with a sticker on it that has an identifying number that matches up to a hologram sticker with the same number on the bottom of the box. Now, he had the hologram sticker on the bottom of the box but did not have the certificate. I don't think it's fake because it does have the hologram sticker. The problem is, a collector also wants to have that certificate because they want to display to others in a case or in some other way that this is the real deal, because not everyone's going to be, you don't want people who are looking at it to explore it, pick it up, look at the bottom of the box, drop it, that sort of thing. So I would be competing with people that have that certificate. He doesn't have that. So someone was trying to get $229 or so out of that, and had some watchers, so I'd probably have to offer it up for $199 without the certificate. So there's a little bit of risk in there I have to think about. The other thing are the Cheech and Chong ones. Now, they are quite rare. There's only one person who has them, and he's trying to sell it on eBay for $350 plus $550 best offer. So he has them in auction format. He's tried to sell it 3 times recently, has not sold. The person has it up again and has no watchers on it. So that creates a dilemma and a tough situation for me. I don't know the level of interest in those items. Cheech and Chong were popular movie characters from the 1970s. I don't know how much current interest there would be in those items. It's possible if I just put it up for $299 best offer that it would get accepted and I'd make $300 on it. Problem is, I don't really have the data to support that, and that's a big gamble I would be taking. I don't have like that they're up for $350 with 10 watchers. That would make me much more confident. I don't have a completed sale purchase to show me that these have at least sold once in the last 60 days for, several $100s. I don't have that. So there's another risk going into it, assessing value. So turns out that he still was not really quite comfortable and kept going out and talking with his fiance to see if he'd be willing to make this deal. And ultimately, I told him that I can meet him I could go up another 50. And also, most of his pops were in what we call pop protectors. So there's hard cover protectors and soft cover protectors. And you could charge more if you say your Funko Pop comes in a pop protector because people don't want them getting damaged. So they're basically like a plastic sheath covering for these pops. And I told him, you know what? Those are valuable. Most of them are in there. That's a benefit for me. They're not going to add anything significant to the shipping cost. So I could go up to $800 for all the Funko Pops plus the signed ones, so including the signed ones. And he ultimately went out again, talked to his fiance, came back, said, and I told him this was okay too. We could think about it. We could talk about it on another day. If it's feeling too much pressure right now, that's fine. So I left on good terms, and about 5 minutes away, and he texts me. So I'm at the gas station looking, get some gas, get some food, get a drink, something like that. And he says, I talked to her. She's hung up on certain items. She'd be willing to do it for $900. So I factor that all out. That winds up being about a little less than $4 per Funko Pop. And some of those that are in there, some of them are not super valuable ones. So some of them are, I'm only going to make like $3.50 on it profit when you factor everything into it. So I don't like having individual units that I'm actually gonna actually lose some. I mean, overall, I'd make money on the collection, but it would be a lot of work and too much risk that I'm comfortable with to go up another $100. So ultimately, what I did is I wrote him back and I said, listen, I said I appreciate it, but I have a wife too, Mrs. Primetime, and she's not comfortable with the deal either. So as I was starting to become more uncomfortable with it, because really there was just too much risk. And one of the things that it's helpful to kind of have a business partner or a spouse or someone to bounce things off of is, help you make sure you're thinking clearly, because she knows how I am when I come back and I make a purchase and I make a great collection deal. I just know that I made an awesome score. And, she knew in my voice that there was a lot of risk involved in this. And it wasn't like one of those situations where I knew I was automatically making a killer deal. And for that type of money, is it really worth it? Do I really even need all that stuff right now? No, I have a ton of stuff that I still need to sell, so I need to take on that type of collection. No, so that does give me an advantage as a seller, that I have a lot of stuff. I'm not desperate. I don't need to buy that. So just kind of think of myself through that. Yeah, I'd love to have all those. I'd love to buy a collection. The guy's a nice guy. We got along well. But ultimately, I can't let those things interfere with making a smart business choice. Now, there is always risk involved in business, and sometimes you have to make a risky decision. But you have to know when to take the right risks and the wrong risks. Someone could definitely look at the situation I described and disagree and say, I would go in and purchase that for $900. I probably could have got them down to $850, by the way. So I probably could have got it for that. Someone else might have made that purchase, but it's a personal decision. So for me personally, I wasn't comfortable with it, and I told them, nope, here's why I'm backing out. It's ultimately boiled down to the certificates of authenticity and not having enough data on some of the more expensive items, which is where I'd get the bulk of my money back. Because what I would have wanted to do is purchase that for $850, quickly make my $850 back on the 7 signed items and the Cheech and Chong, and then the rest of it would be all profit. And so I didn't feel really comfortable I could do that, because if those signed ones, people didn't want to buy them because it didn't have the paper COA associated with it, or certificate of authenticity, well, then I'm really stuck, because now I can't make the bulk of my money back really quickly, and I'm left sitting with items that, with 229 items, that it's going to take me a while to get my money back. I don't want to be in that situation. So that's basically how it ended off. He did not respond back to that text. I sent him a text with actually what I would want, with a picture exactly of one of those Funkos, the Chevy Chase, that shows what my competition would be. I said, I trust you. I said, and one of the reasons I really do trust him, by the way, is that he actually had 4 other signed ones that he wanted to keep for himself because they had sentimental value. So if he was trying to pass on fake signed Funko Pops, there's no way he would want to save 4 for himself. So I don't think that was what was going on at all. I do trust that they were legitimate. The problem is and I explained this to him, the person that I'm going to try to sell it to does not know him, does not know me, except for what my reputation is on eBay. But still, they don't know him. They don't know where I got it from, and they're gonna typically want those certificates. So he didn't respond back to that. He's probably disappointed / possibly offended or upset that I'm questioning, or may feel like to him that I'm questioning the authenticity of the items. But that's just how it goes when you're dealing with signed pop culture items or sports items. You really have to protect yourself by getting the certificates of authenticity, or sometimes they have letters of authenticity. So that wraps it up. Was it a total waste of time? I try not to look at it that way. You could look at it like that way if you choose to. I look at it all as experience in negotiating, experience in dealing, experience in you know, seeing some items that I had never seen before, like those Cheech and Chong items. They're very rare. So being able to see them firsthand and look up the values, all these things build up as knowledge in my head. And you know, can't tell you how many times I then at a later deal find the same things that I saw earlier, and now I have more working knowledge of it, and it helps me make a better deal. So also in the back of my head, I am also thinking that I have another potential major deal relating to comic books that might go down on Sunday. So I have that in my head as well. So maybe I'll save my powder for that day, and hopefully make a deal then. I'm not sure. We have to stay tuned for that one. Let me know, as I said, if this type of video is helpful for you, in which I go through my reasoning and I did not make a purchase like this. If everything I kind of took you through, especially if you're new, is helpful, please tell me that, because I need to know whether or not you want me to continue to make videos like this or not. That's fine. If not, just be honest with me. Let me know. If you like the video, though, make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment down below or a question if you have one. Come to my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. We just hit over 1,000 members and growing. It's a very positive place for resellers. No spam, no stupid sarcasm type of stuff. Just come, you know, when you ask a question, that's not going to happen. Come in there. I promise you, you'll have a great experience. The link is down below. All you have to do is click it, submit join request, and when I see it, if your profile looks okay, you're in. And lastly, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Very close. We're at 597, trying to get to 600, so help me get there. If you're watching this and like it and you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, and I really appreciate it. So I will see you all at the next video. Thanks so much if you stuck around this whole time to watch this. Take care, everyone.